Gonk.
We make a gonk song.
We make a gonk song. That's what we do when we're not on air.
Gonk should make a gonk song. Hello, everybody.
We're on air.
I think we might be on air.
Oh.
Yes. Welcome, everybody. We are here with Gonk and Eric. Yep, Gonk is here, and I'm here. And we're here to talk about Ahsoka stuff, which will be fun.
Yes, we
There's
are.
been a lot of Ahsoka stuff going on.
Has there?
With the current show, with the book. I mean, the book's been out for a little while.
It has been out for a little while, but you know what hasn't? Episode 4 of Ahsoka. And I'm going to assume, because it's us, if you haven't seen it yet, you probably don't want to continue watching, because I can't not talk about it.
Why can't you not talk about it?
I have to talk about it.
But we talked about it yesterday when we talked about it.
I got to talk about more. You think one day is enough?
Yeah.
It's not. We immediately started talking. We were recording our reaction yesterday. We stopped recording, and then we just kept talking about it, and Calvin's like, save it for the show.
Hey, should we turn the camera back on?
Yeah, that's what he said. Turn the camera back on. So anyway, that might happen in the course of this podcast. Also, I mean, you know, we're going to be talking about the book. We're going to be talking about some other things, but we love to talk about your questions. So people can get questions in, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the show as well.
I do like questions. Also, the next Badonkagonk, we can get this out of the way so that you guys don't miss out on this, but the next Badonkagonk will be October 5th.
Ooh, I'm going to write that down.
That'll be when the next one will be.
October 5th right here on Wave Squadron.
I want to make sure I don't forget.
Yeah.
We don't forget to say it.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it happens.
Do we want to talk about what homework they need to do?
We can, sure.
Your homework for October 5th. The next book that we're going to be covering is A New Dawn. Is that what it's called?
Why'd you say with a question?
Because I just suddenly, doubted myself if that's what it's called.
I believe it's called A New Dawn. It is one of the prequels to Rebels.
Yes. This is actually the first book in canon, I believe, published in 2014 when Disney took over. So it's a story mainly, I haven't read it. It's mainly involving Hera Syndulla and Kanan Jarrus.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm excited to get into it, because we're getting a lot of Hera right now.
I believe it was the first created for the new canon, right? Because
Yes.
Tarkin came out in the canon, but it had already been in the works, I believe. So.
Yeah.
But
It was the first book published after, intended to be in the new canon. Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah. Yep. So, if you haven't read that one, make sure you read that one. We'll be talking about it October 5th. I'm excited for that one, because unlike this one with Ahsoka, I listened to it a year or two ago. I forget when it was. I forget how long it's been out, but it was on a vacation trip, and Melly and I listened to it in the car.
You listened to Ahsoka.
The Ahsoka in the car, yeah.
So it's been a bit since you've read this book.
Yeah. I've been going through trying to make sure to refresh my memory on everything.
Yeah.
But there's some things that are still fairly vivid in my mind about it. I have a favorite part that I want to talk about that I'm curious how you took it, because when I went through this book, there was no Tales of the Jedi.
There was no contradictions.
Which I figured we'll have to talk about, too, as we kind of go through
Yeah,
a
we
little
will.
bit. Because there's Tales of the Jedi has the final episode of that, and it kind of covers a very super abridged version of what happens in this book, I feel like.
Yeah.
I think there's wiggle room where it doesn't necessarily take everything out.
Sure.
But it kind of, the main thing's the Inquisitor is the main thing that's if you would have used the same Inquisitor. And also, what's the main girl's name? Kaden?
Kaden. Her name is Kaden Larty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kaden.
Yep. Actually, I did have a quote from E.K. Johnston that I wanted to read before we got into it, because I'm assuming that continuity stuff will be something that we talk about a lot. She has a quote here saying, "There isn't a big conspiracy behind the changes in Ahsoka's story. Dave approved the book 6 years ago and then kept working on her journey. It's frustrating to see people gleefully declare my book non-canon instead of just using their imaginations like we did." So what she's saying, and kind of how I felt as I was reading it, is I immediately see Maul wasn't in a ray shield during the Siege of Mandalore, but I can look at that and be well, there's a creative here, an artist here that's telling me this story, and I can filter around things that don't necessarily fit together like Legos,
Sure, yeah. No, there's definitely a few
I'll do
changes
Lincoln
like
Logs.
that they kind of talk about.
Yeah.
But there's also some things that are referenced in this book that we then see exactly, because I don't remember. I think I might have seen Clone Wars. Man, I don't remember if I read this before or after season 7 of Clone Wars. I don't remember the release of everything.
Yeah. I think you would have.
I think I would have seen
season 7 of Clone Wars. Yeah.
So, but there's a few things that kind of like contradict each other between that wasn't out yet with the Siege of Mandalore, the Tales of the Jedi wasn't out yet. So there's like those things are kind of like, well, this is. I mean, this was published. Is dead on, and this is a little different.
This was published in 2016, and E.K. Johnston even has a quote saying like, or was at least it's known that she was told don't put too much action into Siege of Mandalore scene because we're working on it. You know, so that was a secret then, but
sure.
That's why she doesn't really go too far into it.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I must say. Oh, go ahead.
I would say, well, we should jump in and kind of really discuss this book, I imagine, here, and then we can get into some other topics and/or questions here afterwards.
Absolutely. All right, Aaron. So from a year and a half ago when you read it, what was your initial thoughts of the book?
Of the book? Yeah. I mean, I really liked it. I thought some of the fun stuff in the book for me was getting in Ahsoka's mind. Because we had Rebels already, but like, what were her thoughts after leaving? Her thinking back on things that had happened and stuff, I thought was really cool. There was a line I remember from, I think it's early on in the book. She's like recounting like the Siege of Mandalore, like first off is like Darth Maul and stuff, and I think that stuff was really cool. But then later on, she's kind of thinking of like when they're like burying their clones, and she kind of mentions like we fake Rex's death.
Yeah,
we leave my
sabers
there and stuff
at Rex's
too.
grave.
Yeah, and while I think talking about that part, she also is like thinking about younglings and how terrible it must have been for like familiar face to be. I mean, we're killed by a familiar face or something like that.
Yep.
And I think it was really cool to have. Like that thought there, but also the double thought of like she's thinking of clones.
Yeah.
But then you can also be like, well, then there's Anakin, and she doesn't know that yet. And I like kind of seeing where her mindset is as she's trying to figure out if she should or shouldn't be helping people. Should she be like in Kenobi, right? We see Obi-Wan spending a lot of time like keep your head down, don't do anything.
Yeah.
You just survive.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on Luke Skywalker. That's it. And then eventually he's kind of summoned and goes out and has to maybe start doing more at some point. We don't know where it goes from there, but you see a growth of him
and is able to reaffirm his faith in like what he's doing. Whereas Ahsoka kind of like, at least in this book, you get the feeling that she's kind of, even though she's disenfranchised from the Jedi, she's kept her faith in her training, her master, the mentors, the people that were always there to tell her, well, this is what you should be doing. And now that she doesn't have that, it's something that she misses and she thinks about, and that's what guides her, despite the fact that at least one of those people is root and stem, the cause of what's happening.
Yeah. Well, and she keeps talking to like her conscience, her Jiminy Cricket, which is like a fake R2-D2, right? Like they mentioned about her like she just like says stuff and she's like, why do I keep doing this? He's not here, and there's that sadness to that element as well. And I just really liked getting into the mind of her and how she also she doesn't seem to be able to just sit back all the time. Like she has to kind of interfere. She has to kind of help. Yeah. And it keeps growing more and more to the point where eventually she's like, okay, I'll become Fulcrum. So I was like, that's really cool.
No, I mean, and we're reviewing this book like in the middle of the Ahsoka series airing on Disney Plus right now. So to me, it's fascinating to think about the differences between Ahsoka's characterization here and much later in her journey. Whereas here, you can still feel that she still feels a lot more bright-eyed and optimistic and enjoys actively helping people. And in Ahsoka, the series proper, she just feels very tired. She feels very leaderless in a way, right? Like she knows that she's really good at what she does, but what does she do? Like I do like her discovering what she wants to do at the end of this book, which is that bookend from Padawan Lost to Fulcrum, right?
Sure.
Which is a really cool thing for people that are interested, like to think of the character's journey or characterization in this moment. Like there's a very two big goalposts that we can set ourselves in here, but it's fun to compare that to what we know comes later.
Well, yeah, and in this book too, she also starts to find herself as a leader, which she did so much times like through the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
but she starts growing a resistance on the planet, the farming planet, all these farmers start joining in with her, and she starts leading these people in their own little resistance against the Empire.
Yeah,
and then later on we start getting her more and more doing more rebellious leading and whatnot, but also sometimes being solo. But she's a big part of that, and I think it's all there from her Jedi training and from her master of like we have to help people and we can't just leave people behind and we have connections. I did like that she went back to like check on the little girl from the farties.
The farties. So I'm going to assume you had the same thing happen that happened to me. You listened with Melanie on a road trip. I listened with Jancy on a road trip. And it's actually kind of funny because Jancy has never seen Clone Wars or Rebels. She hasn't watched Ahsoka. I think she's watched the episode of Mandalorian that Ahsoka was in. She's watched all of Star Wars, and, she's just not as into it, as me, but... who's as into it as me and you sometimes, Yeah,
exactly.
But it was really interesting. Like, this was kind of her, the first 20 chapters or so we read together. And this was kind of her, like, introduction / getting to know Ahsoka. And I thought it was a really interesting thing. But we listened to the audiobook while driving. Ashley Eckstein did a marvelous job.
I love that she, narrated this book.
Loved it. And, I mean, there was no way I couldn't hear Ahsoka, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like, I'm still getting used to Rosario's version. It's much more mature, much more, a sad and somber version. But I still think it fits, like, at least in the point in which Ahsoka is in her life. But it's really cool to hear Ashley Eckstein take up this character who still hasn't lost a lot of things that make her her.
Yeah.
I loved that. But every time she said farty, I thought she said farty.
What? You just said the same thing twice.
Farty.
Yeah, farty.
And I kept like, oh, there's the farty girls. And me and Jancy.
No, it's
we're driving.
It definitely sounds funny whenever you're listening to it. And I'm like, wait, what'd they say?
Yeah.
And then later on, I have to like look it up. And like, what are these people's names? Farty.
Yeah, farty.
Okay. Yeah, no,
yes,
I get you.
It is farty.
But I like that she went back to check on that girl who had like a force sensitivity and stuff too, right? Like it was another youngling that she's thinking of, kind of, and she knows of a darkness, whatever. Like she's thinking of like this Lord Vader kind of person that she's heard of, and she wants to make sure that he's safe and stuff. But or that she's safe. But
there's two people I want to thank right now. The first one is Samil Battenfeld, who just gifted us $5 a super chat. Thank you so much. We'll get to your question soon. The second person I want to thank is Ashley Eckstein for her impression of Darth Maul.
Okay.
I loved hearing her, Lady Tano, like she can't hit the tone, but she hit the inflection.
She's
and
like,
I personally love impressions that have the inflection, but it's not the voice. I think it's a fun thing.
She's like, I know how Sam would do this. Let me try to do that.
I spent enough time with that guy to know like how he does it, even though it's not my voice. I absolutely love that.
No, that's fun too.
Yeah. But we'll get to your question during the question Q&A.
Yes, I said Sam. I'm sorry. He's not here right now.
It's okay, buddy. It's okay.
We'll watch Clone Wars again later.
Yeah. Or you can just watch Ahsoka because he's credited, which obviously means that he was playing a character that no one knew about, like Merrick or something, right?
It could have. I mean, he could have just been a voice off over. He could have been a robot.
In fact, in a rewatch of the first episode, when Ahsoka's down in that temple room and she's like working with the pillars and stuff, you can if you pay attention, you can hear a little bit of Darth Maul from Siege of Mandalore in there. I can't remember what the line is right now, but you can hear a little tiny bit of it. Which is, Lady Tano, You're
just making that up so everyone goes back and they listen to that over and over.
I am not making it up, but I can't remember exactly what the quote is right now off the top of my head. But it was from Siege of Mandalore. And I know you gotta watch the first episode, Gonk, and I'm sure there's other little tiny Easter eggs in there that I haven't found. But anyway,
I am curious on one of
Gonk. All right, I think I fixed it.
I am curious on one of your thoughts because having seen Tales of the Jedi,
yes.
Whenever I was listening to this, I got very excited and shocked whenever we switched over to having Bail Organa show up in it, and I wasn't sure if you were kind of like expecting it, if it was less of a shock to you, or
I wasn't expecting it. But you're saying in contrast to his appearance in Tales of the Jedi.
Well, kind of, because like I hadn't seen that, so like
sure, yeah.
If you watch that, he talks to her at the funeral, and then he shows up again at the end, and then when we were listening to this, like it's just it's Ahsoka and what she's done, and we flash back sometimes to Siege of Mandalore, or she's thinking about like a moment from the Clone Wars,
Anakin and the Battle of Christophsis. We had a little bit of that.
Yeah.
We had Obi-Wan on Tatooine. Just little moments.
Yeah, there's little things like that, and then like I think this one was before all those even too, so I wasn't even expecting because of that. But like we just cut over, and I'm just like, wait, where are we? Alderaan.
Yeah.
Organa.
Yeah.
And then talking about this little girl like looking at these fish and stuff, and I was like, oh, it's little Leia. Yeah. And me and Melanie were like, oh.
I know. Yeah, that was great.
This was also before Kenobi, so like now like you can start trying to picture like a little Leia, and like and like now I feel like it's even more like different and like oh now I'm really into this here.
No, that makes sense. That why you're asking that question then, because as soon as it happened, I'm thinking of the room they're in Kenobi. Just with the fish tank in the corner.
Yeah.
Breha's walking around, and that little girl that tricked Breha with her and that thing maybe be in there. So when I'm like imagining it in my mind, I instantly was able to pull that from Kenobi. Whereas when you watched it, it's a complete, oh my god.
Yeah, it's just all new. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we're here. Bale's here. Why is Bale and Ahsoka? This is great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, he has little Leia there.
Leia. No, that was fantastic, and it served a purpose too in. The first scenes take place during the first Empire Day, where Leia and Luke are very young, just born, pretty much. But then that next scene, she's a toddler. And I instantly was able to oh, okay, we've skipped some time now.
We've had time pass.
Yeah, so it was able to be, not an Easter egg because it's very involved having Bale there, but having that engagement also be utilized in the story to tell you kind of like where you are in the timeline. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was really cool. I loved Bale's element of it because he I think he sent Antilles. Is that who he sent?
Yeah, Captain Antilles.
I want to say he sent her or him to go get Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't know it was Ahsoka yet.
He sent
right?
the ship, and then he had 2 agents that were supposed to abduct her or kidnap her, and that didn't work out very well.
Yeah. I do like, and now having watched Ahsoka and stuff, the idea of her in like a, because like she like parks her ship and then comes back. Yeah. But like she's like in a space suit or something like that.
Yep.
And I was like,
same thing for me.
It's kind of like Ahsoka here, Like you can think about that now, but I just like the idea of those kind of like mirroring each other.
Some of my favorite things about the book was effectively a Jedi. I mean, I know she's not a Jedi during this time, but effectively a Jedi going throughout most of these battles and these scenarios sans lightsabers. I think was a lot of fun. It made Ahsoka just have to be a little bit more creative, and obviously it's a way of staying secret. You don't want these big flashy cones of light saying Jedi here, you know. But I like where she's like, what do I do? I'll just crush this blaster, I guess, you know. So it's cool to see that resource come out as well.
On the other side of that, there's a lot of stuff they do talking about crystals and sabers, and we have a little like Ilum memory and stuff that they talk about. And, we also, and we've talked about this a few times too, about like the idea of bleeding a crystal, and about that. Like I feel like every time we talk about like not being in canon or when has it actually happened in canon and stuff like that. And I think about this sometimes, and I'm like, I don't think Eric knows about this one, so I'm not going to say anything.
Okay, yeah.
So, but I think this is the first time I remember it being like, oh, this is in like the current canon now, having this bleeding of crystals, and I was like, this is cool. I'm glad.
Yeah, it was for me. It was something I just heard about originally online in the internet, and being like, what? That's weird, but. Over time, I've accepted it / have seen little references, but this one was probably the biggest in terms of bleeding the crystal and then purifying the crystal as well, which is just so interesting. Yeah, right.
Well, because we beat the Inquisitor and use his saber to make new sabers.
Okay.
Right.
So yes, and that's awesome. I love the idea that something that's been corrupted can be redeemed, and so much in this, in that Ahsoka, like from a large distance, could feel those were hers. Even though they're not. They're this Inquisitors, and he probably took them from a Jedi that he killed or something. I don't know exactly what happened.
Well,
but she could feel in the ruin of the Jedi and the dark side is salvation, right? So here's where I might bring up just a theory or a little talking point about what we're currently watching, the Ahsoka series, because at the end of episode 4, she turns in the world between worlds and sees Anakin Skywalker. But as it ends, we get this really dark note, this Darth Vader feel, right?
Yeah, Vader theme.
The Vader theme. I mean, it's way more understated than we've heard it in other spots, but it's still there. So there's a part of me going like, if Ahsoka, whose lightsabers that called to her from a great distance were these corrupted crystals that needed purification, I wonder if Anakin Skywalker needs that too, in a way. I wonder if in the World Between Worlds, in the Episode 3 Anakin that we see there, isn't going to be just, hey, it's Anakin, let's have a good conversation. Like, what if it's Darth Vader? And what if there's something about that needs purified in a way, right? Because Vader's death and his ascension and transition to being a Force ghost, like, we don't know anything about that. We just assume everything went great, even though you say, like, how do you do that? And you have to be like, he's the chosen one. You just that's in the deal. Or Yoda and Obi-Wan, they did something. But what if in a world that is without space and time, Ahsoka is the one that helps purify Anakin, that allows him to get to something like that? I was only thinking about that just because of the feeling of something that was bled to be purified again. That might be an interesting story thread you go
I mean, I would agree that Anakin needs to be purified, but I think that that's what Luke does.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's the idea that like he's the one who redeems him from the dark side, and
he at least
brings him back to the
starts
light.
him down that road. But once you start down the dark road, forever will dominate your destiny. I don't think it necessarily means like, you know, Luke said, like Luke, you know, embraced him with love and everything was hunky dory. You know, like maybe there's something else. You know, maybe there's a story to be told there. I don't know. It's just something I was thinking about because I was just so excited by that.
I think you just want to bring him up.
I do. I do. I always do.
Bring him,
Why would? How do you not bring up Anakin Skywalker when talking about Ahsoka?
Well,
you have to.
Yeah, I guess so.
You do.
But that episode just came out this week, Eric.
I know.
It came out yesterday.
I know.
Talking about it.
I have to talk about it.
I know.
That's what the people want, Aaron.
I know. I just feel bad.
Why feel bad?
People may not have seen it.
We did a spoiler alert. Haha.
All right. But I did enjoy having the bleeding crystals and the talking about all that kind of aspect. And just showing how, because especially if we've seen Clone Wars, it's like, well, she doesn't have a saber. And the Tales of the Jedi also didn't go into that either.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, she's just made new sabers, I guess, right? Or something. But they kind of give you information here as to how that happens. So I like that they did that. Especially since I didn't have Tales of the Jedi being like, oh, here what it is. Yeah. That's one thing too with that is Tales of the Jedi. I kind of wish they would have just kept the same Inquisitor rather than changing it, unless it's meant to be like kind of a different story. But then I feel like that doesn't work because Bail shows up at the end.
No, yeah, the Bail thing complicates it a little bit. Even though I prefer the setting of her being at Padme's funeral. Like in terms of like,
I love that. I think you can leave that in without it really kind of contradicting or causing any hiccups in the whole situation.
Yeah, and like E.K. Johnston said, like use your imagination. You know, like you're not gonna. It's never going to be the case that every Star Wars fan agrees with every other Star Wars fan about what Star Wars is and should be and what the canon is. Like it's always going to be slightly different. That's not a bad thing.
Sure.
And if I have to do a little mental gymnastics to make those things fit together, super easy. I feel like, but. Like I will in my head now. I kind of like imagine the substance of the book in the visual language of Tales of the Jedi in a way.
Sure.
Like the not eighth brother. Which brother? Sixth brother. Like the sixth brother here, as he's described, the gray man or the shadow or whatever. One of our people that help us out with Badonkagonk, Nexus. Thank you, Nexus. Irish Nexus in the chat sent us a picture of what he looked like, and I remember being like, "It's cool." But it was really cool. Clancy Brown's Inquisitor from Tales of the Jedi.
Sure.
So I'm kind of like in my head, like imagining that he looks like that a little bit more,
Sure.
So there's a little bit of fudging of the edges there.
No, I get that. With that Inquisitor too, I was looking at and we may talk about this again next week, but because of this one, I was looking at that again to see kind of what happened in that. And whenever Ahsoka defeats that Inquisitor, his like mask kind of just feels like it just kind of deflates and stuff, and I was like, and it made me think of like another Inquisitor that died that was like kind of so I was like, interesting, maybe there's like, I don't know, because we don't really know anything about that one or what he is or anything, so
just that he's kind of
curious.
Like you're talking about the sixth brother.
I'm talking about the
other one,
Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of the Jedi one, yeah. Well, I mean, they both kind of serve the same purpose in that they seem to be like the first the first operative Inquisitor. The Grand Inquisitor we hear later.
Sure, at least for Ahsoka in this book, especially. Like, it seems like she's aware of, like, a Lord Vader type of person.
Yeah, she does mention that, like, there's rumors of a Dark Lord in the service of the Emperor.
But I don't think she's aware of, like, these Inquisitors at all.
Yeah, and I don't know if necessarily the galaxy is either, because Bale doesn't even know about them. He just, like, he says at the end of the book, he's like, so they can't take a Jedi? They're not very dangerous? He's like, oh, no, they're dangerous. Just for people like you, not people like me.
Yeah. They're like a lesser Sith.
Yeah.
They're threatening to people who don't have any of the Force, and then they compensate with that big spinny saber.
They do.
Which is one of your favorites.
It's not terrible. I mean, and look, if I was a kid and I went to Walmart and saw that, I'm like, I need this. You know, I'd be playing with it in the woods and everything. I wouldn't care. Like, it's my adult brain that's like, I just don't like it. You know, I don't like change. So I'm not saying if anybody really likes it that I think they're incorrect or anything like that. It's mainly just the utilization of the flying. But also,
if they didn't fly with it, it wouldn't be as bad.
Yeah, and then also, someone in chat just mentioned the Revenge of the Sith novelization, and I will always remember the characterization that was given to Dooku in the beginning of that novelization when he's thinking about everything that led to the moment where Palpatine is on the invisible hand and Obi-Wan and Anakin are coming to rescue them. Yeah. And he's thinking about Maul and how Maul was an animal. And he used this double-bladed lightsaber. It's very inelegant, you know? And that a true swordsman, a true Sith, a true warrior doesn't need multiple blades, doesn't need these fancy things. You can do this with your wrists and your strength and the Force. And I think that I always just really loved that idea. And it's also kind of...
resonate here with, like, resonates. True swordsmen wouldn't need this fancy, spinny, double saber thing. Well, no, and we've always talked about that's like a... It's like a crutch.
It's a huge crutch, which is every time I see that weapon and I'm seeing it being presented, like, oh, that's so cool. In my head, I'm going, crutch.
Yeah, well, what I feel like it's meant to be is intimidation.
Intimidation,
right?
Yeah.
It's like when you see General Grievous walking at you with two sabers, just you're like, oh my gosh, that's scary.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, and it, obviously like a razor blade, but also. Taking inspiration from like Chinese martial arts with swords where, the sword is constantly in motion. That way, when you are looking at an opponent on the battlefield, you're thinking, oh my God, they could fight 10 men, even though they're really just doing katas or they're just really, just trying to look intimidating as opposed to what they're actually doing. So I get it, but there's a part of me that enjoys Maul's way of doing that and Grievous's way of doing that way more than the Inquisitor's way of doing that, which is just...
But Dooku would look down on all of them.
All of them.
And Lady Tana.
For good reason, because he is one of the best.
Like, I feel like...
But hey, I mean, Palpatine in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, he looks down on everybody because he talks about how the Sith, like, we don't need this stupid toy anymore. Your lightsaber that, by the way, when you stab people, is really easy to not killing people because it cauterizes. It's a weapon of peace. We use this to mock the Jedi. Like, oh, you're this really important weapon. This weapon is your life. Look what I can do. I'm Palpatine. I'm better than everybody, and I don't even train, But he talks about how we've grown past this. We don't need this little toy anymore. But the Inquisitor's like, well, I have the toy, and it has special bells and whistles,
Yeah.
Which is still consistent in that I'm sure Palpatine looks down on Inquisitors more than he looks down on Jedi, in a way.
I'll say the things that did the most damage to him was lightsabers.
Yeah, they did a lot of damage to him.
Mace Windu and Rey did a lot of damage to him by having a lightsaber.
Yes, I know. And those are my two least favorite fights in Star Wars. The Mace fight, I mean, at that point, the fight itself is kind of done. But, yeah, I get you. I don't know why Palpatine doesn't just stop.
I'm just trying to look.
Oh no, it's reflecting my lightning back. It's like, sir, stop shooting the lightning. I can't.
I think the first time he's just trying to get more sympathy from Anakin, and he's damaging himself.
That's what I think too. But George Lucas will come out and say, no, Mace would have killed him and beat him and done all that if it weren't for Anakin being there,
Sure. I mean, maybe it's also the idea that if he would have stopped that, the saber would have just came down on him. So he was trying to keep that push back.
Sure.
The Rey one, I think it's not utilized well, but I think that the idea is more than just two sabers pushing it back at him. I think it's like this, all the Jedi Force kind of power also being pushed back at him.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's like visually told well.
Yeah. I'm not a sequel hater, and I actually quite like to rewatch Rise of Skywalker. I actually think it's one of the better rewatches of a Star Wars movie for me. But yeah, that ending part, I've always been like, you could have done so many other things other than the same thing that happened last time, in a way, right?
Yeah. No, I get you.
But yeah, Inquisitor lightsabers.
Back to Ahsoka and Inquisitor lightsabers and everything. Trying to think of what else.
It was an easy read for me.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we get into these
long.
and I like not necessarily even in this length, but sometimes in this like dense context where like, especially if I'm mowing the grass or doing something physical while listening to it, there'll be some times where I'm like, crap, I missed the last two sentences and that was very important.
Yep.
Whereas this was like a little more easy. It was a young adult novel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, it had like a flow and wasn't as easy to.
Yeah.
Oh, what happened? What was this? Mm-hmm. But also maybe part of that too for me is Ahsoka with Ashley Eckstein doing the voice of it, and I don't know. I'm used to hearing that voice a lot too, and it just kind of kept it going for me.
It did.
And that when I've had ones where I'm driving and it just doesn't. I'm driving and it's like you said, like I got to a point like shoot. What did they say?
You're not a sponge. Yeah, you're not a sponge.
Dang
right
it!
Yeah.
I was distracted looking at like exits or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me go back.
Sure. No, I
rewind
get you.
this.
Yeah.
But no, I really enjoyed it a lot. I think Ashley did a really good job with it.
Especially, and I wanted to give her props. But I mean, she's a professional. Sometimes when we have young kids in these books, in the audio guy has to do a kid's voice, it doesn't sound great.
Sure.
But Ashley's sounds like a child.
Well,
like
sure.
she's
Yeah.
so good at it. To be fair, that's her job.
Yeah.
Right? She's an amazing voice actress, and she can get that tone. So, like, to contrast that when she's going for Darth Maul versus when she's doing the female characters, I feel like we both really enjoy Mark Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
But he doesn't have a whole lot of range in his female character level, right? Whereas I feel like Ashley doesn't have a lot of range in the male ones, but the female characters, especially the younger characters, she had very distinct voices for everybody.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, and it's the opposite with Mark Thompson is where you have more distinct voices with each of the guy characters typically, and then it's a smaller range he has for the others.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the reason why you get, most boys in anime are voiced by women.
Yeah, sure.
Because if they're gonna go on for 500 episodes, you don't want them this little boy to age. Now the voice is deeper, and now you can't play the
and
boy.
There's
Ash,
only a certain amount,
whoever.
like a certain amount of time that you can have him working and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, but it's one of the reasons I'm super excited by watching the new Turtles movie, the Mutant Mayhem, because all the turtles are young kids. Mm-hmm. And I only know that because I was watching. I've been obsessed with a YouTuber called Harry Mack in the last couple of weeks, who's a freestyle rapper, and he actually went to do like press for the Turtles movie, where they had all those kids, Seth Rogen and fucking Ice Cube there, and he did a rap for him. And Ice Cube, I think Harry Mack is like the best freestyle rapper I've ever heard in my life. Ice Cube, like all the kids were super excited and they love it and they have these young voices. Ice Cube's like, hey, they don't know what you just did, but I know what you just did. I see you. That was amazing, because NWA, right? Anyway, it was a really fun video, but that's why I'm excited for that Ninja Turtles movie. It actually feels like
because
teenagers.
of the rapper, or
because they feel like teenagers.
Kids. Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense, I guess.
I'm just saying that's the only reason I actually saw it. Because usually I try to stay away from anything that is something I'm interested in, but we're going to react to later. But I had to watch the Harry Mack video, so I was excited to see. Man, those kids sound like kids, and I personally haven't had that in a Turtles thing yet.
Yeah,
except for pizza. So
pizza. Yeah, that was good. That's the best part.
Yeah,
I love that part. Shoot, I should have wrote down the part I had. That's what I was gonna mention.
I don't know how you lost it with my on-topic conversation.
You went to Ninja Turtles, and I was like, I don't even remember what it was now. I was like,
we were talking about Ashley, her range, the young voices. Was it before that what you were thinking of?
No, some of the characters in this too is what it was about. One of which was like a Imperial dude, but they have
what's his name? I can't remember right now.
But like they have him come in at one point, I think too, and I remember there being just this like like one guy's like really talking crap, right?
Yeah.
And they come into the bar and like they like execute this guy. And I remember driving and being like, Jesus, like, all right, like,
yep.
And it's just like the Imperials come in and then they just immediately start changing everything. And anyone who talks bad or talks against it or whatever. And it's weird because I keep relating things to things that I've now seen that I didn't get to see then. Like Andor or like Bad Batch.
Bad Batch.
Where they go into that one planet where it's the Separatist lady and she's like, no, this is ours. We don't want you here. Go away. And Cody talks the lady down. He's like, we've both been through war. Let's not do this anymore.
Yeah.
And she lets him go. She doesn't kill this Imperial officer dude. And then immediately it's like, kill her.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, man. It's just, it's hard seeing like the Imperials do everything. And it's like, well, I'm glad that Rebels and Resistance rise up and stuff, you know? But it also makes me think of why like Mon Mothma and Kaz's dad.
Senator Xiono.
Xiono, yeah. Like the fear they have of, I guess, doing
how easy it was.
Too much, like being like you. It's that thing where it's like, well, people were working for the Imperials all the time, doing all kinds of stuff, right? How many of them were actually loyal to the Empire versus how many were just trying to survive? Sure. And then how do you find those lines to divide that up versus like put all the Imperials in jail or do whatever where it's like we can't trust any of them. And it's tricky because like now once you start doing that, you start falling into the same thing the Empire did where it's like if you don't agree with us or if we suspect you at all, we'll just toss you in jail or kill you or whatever. And so like I get a lot of that when you see like the early days of the Empire especially and what they're doing and even the later days if they don't care.
I love your point in bringing up Bad Batch because there was a certain point when I'm listening to this that I was thinking of the Stormtrooper in this first year or whatever, and in my head I'm thinking of the classic Stormtrooper that we know of, but no, I need to be thinking of that version 1 Stormtrooper we see in Bad Batch. Sure. I need to be thinking of the shuttles that we see there and the walkers that we see there.
Yeah, we're in that middle ground.
They're still slightly different, right? So that's a good point you made.
Yeah, and I think she says early on too about how quickly the clones are replaced with, like, just soldiers, just people.
Yeah, she could tell just by hearing somebody. Oh, that's not a clone.
Yeah.
So,
I also liked her, and this is directly kind of tied towards Clone Wars Season 7, I think, too, because it talks about Darth Maul escaping her, but she's like, I had to choose between, like, Maul and Rex. And I was like, thinking about in episode, well, I guess it would have been the final episode, I think, right? Or second to last, where he's on that ship and she's trying to hold him back. And then Rex is like covering her and defending her. And then she has to let Maul go and starts defending Rex with the sabers. And I'm like, it's just cool to have some of those connections to like, in the book of what they're saying. And like at that time when they wrote this, I'm sure E.K. Johnston didn't have those ideas, right? They didn't know, right? So Ahsoka is just, you got to be, I don't know, less specific, but also enough to generate the emotion and have the understanding as to what Ahsoka's feeling and thinking. Yeah. And I think it does a good enough job for most of those where you can kind of then just fill in from, I remember this from Tales, or I remember this from Clone Wars, or I remember this from that, and you can kind of like piece in some little bits of canon and
despite
stuff.
any contradictions.
Yeah.
Which, as a former Bible theology student, like I got really good at justifying contradictions, you know? And to your point, like the part where she has to choose between Rex and Maul and letting him go, I would probably put that at the point where she frees him from captivity.
Oh, you think it's there more?
Yeah, because I mean, I need a distraction. What does she do during that distraction? She goes and gets the chip out of Rex's head. And Rex is the one only clone she does that for. So you could say that she was choosing Maul's capture over Rex's freedom in a way, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, which way do you prioritize that? I let him go so I can go save Rex. I let him go so I can go save Rex. Yeah. Like, both of those kind of have the same idea there.
Yeah, they rhyme.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's easy to rhyme when you're the same words, Eric.
I suppose so. It's not easy to rhyme. Watch a Harry Mack video. He makes it easy.
What else is there?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the book for kind of its simplicity.
Yeah,
honestly, it was really just Ahsoka not being able to help that she is a person that will help others. Like she can't not do that, and I enjoyed that small part of the story, kind of going throughout to the point where like Bail recognizes that. Even with her not being a Jedi anymore or being affiliated, Bail recognizes, like, you need to help people. That's who you are.
Yeah.
And that's what I need.
To the point that she's like, her cover is that she's just a mechanic that fixes stuff for people and everything, right? And we kind of saw that even also back in Clone Wars when she was with the sisters. So, like, that's just what she does.
The Martez sisters.
That's another one, too, where she was a mechanic for the Farties, right? And there's, I forget exactly how it happens, but there's some point, like, she goes back and she's doing stuff, and she has to leave again, and the Farty dad or whatever has some kind of element where he's like, I know what you've been doing, or, like, I know you've been helping people or stealing my ships or whatever, and like, he's like not mad, but he's like, you gotta go because you're gonna be in trouble, and I don't want you getting in trouble.
He doesn't see the benefit in stopping what she's doing.
Yeah. Like, he kind of like was just letting it happen, and I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Like,
well, they're like a rich local family that also smuggles too, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like he's wanting that heat as well.
Yeah.
But I think that he kind of sees, like, you can smuggle and still not be what the Empire is.
Yeah.
And I think that she sees, like, you can steal my ship and not be what the Empire is.
Yeah.
You can do stuff that I don't know what you're doing, but I can see that you're doing good. That's not what the Empire does.
Yeah. And I just like the relationship between them, even to the point where, like, I think in the very beginning, she's trying to run away on Empire Day, and when she's flying away, she's like, sorry, Farties. You know, like, it's like thinking to herself, I'm sorry I'm stealing your shit.
You can't help but hear it. I hear it too.
It's the Farties. It's just, it's like one of those, like, sitcom shows, right? Like, Meet the Farties or something.
It is kind of like the Farties.
Yeah. It's just a weird name. Especially when you only hear it and you're not reading it. I feel if I would have been reading it, I would have probably pronounced it differently and not.
Yeah, I'm
seen
too
it
dumb.
the
I
same.
wouldn't have even thought about it.
Yeah.
If I was just reading it off the page.
It's like Fardi, I think.
Fardi.
Why'd you laugh that time? You even said it the right way. I don't know. But no, I really enjoy this book. I love Ashley doing the reading for it. And I really enjoyed Bail Organa being a part of it.
Yeah,
and what you mentioned too, there's not much to say about him, but the small little glimpse of, like, Anakin, like, I think he's like watching the shuttle bringing Ahsoka in.
Yeah.
Like, that was cool. Having the small little moment with Obi-Wan was really cool. But I was really glad to have, like, Bail be, like, a bigger chunk of this, because I always want more Bail Organa.
Me too.
And I always feel like I'm like, where's Bail?
I know.
Do a series where it's like, have him in Andor, have him, like, I want Bail Organa doing his rebellion stuff that he's trying to build up and work on, but we never get enough of him.
I know.
But maybe that's part of it too, is like, he's always a smaller part in these things, so it's like I never have too much of him.
It is one of those weird things with Bail Organa, right? Like, he is significant. Like, that's Leia's father. Like, he is responsible for who Princess Leia, I mean, with Breya as well, but responsible for what Princess Leia becomes. Like, it's not about her blood. It's about the people that raised her. It's about her family. And he also has the unfortunate end of dying in the first Star Wars movie, but no one gives this crap.
And no one knew.
No one cares.
No one knows.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when they say that, and you know, like, she lost all of her family and stuff, and what do?
Your father.
We console Luke because Obi-Wan died.
I know, right?
You know, like, we never.
I'm sorry the guy that you've known for a week died, you know?
Yeah, so, like,
you have like 7 billion people just died of my family.
It's a thing where it's just kind of mentioned, and then we don't really deal with it at all. But that should have been a bigger deal to her, you know? Like, that was her dad. Like, as big of a deal. It should have been a bigger deal than Luke being mad about Obi-Wan or Darth Vader, really. You know, like, this was the man who raised her for 18 years or whatever.
And, I mean, those scenes, and, you know, I've seen some people not love the Obi-Wan series and some of the stuff that they chose to do. But, man, the scenes with Bail, all of them are so good. Jimmy Smits is so good.
Yeah.
And he just has aged so beautifully that they don't even worry about trying to de-age him or anything. You know, everybody else is getting, like, de-age stuff, but Jimmy Smits and Ewan McGregor, they look fine.
Yeah. Well, the one thing in this book, too, was he looks at, like, an image, and all he sees is, like, a little bit of, like, her Montrail.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's her!
That's her! I know her! I know that one.
I just love that so much.
I also really love, even though he knows who she is and her connection to Anakin, he does not betray that secret.
He's not the one to tell.
It's not his secret to tell, and he thinks about it, but he ultimately doesn't. And I also like his really, he does like a little test on her towards the end of the book where he's like, yeah, you know, something about my daughter. and just kind of Ahsoka says like it sounded like a test, but I must have failed it because you moved on.
Yeah, because he doesn't know necessarily who all knows or anything, right? He knows there's Yoda and there's Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
but like, could she know about this?
Like, and there's like this alternate timeline that splits off where
she knew,
like I kind of want, like how amazing would it be if like Ahsoka was the one guarding, like how Obi-Wan is guarding Luke, maybe Ahsoka's guarding Leia on Alderaan, while Luke is being raised by Owen, and he's being raised by Bail. You also have the Jedi Guardians there. That'd be
you have the mirror of that,
but it didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
Not directly either, but I should say Fulcrum does work with Leia in a way, but I don't think they, just like how Vader doesn't, they don't realize the connection.
You didn't have any moment with her name, did you? Because there was no Tales of the Jedi, as I mentioned. So, like, whenever they're like, hey, Ashla, I was like, oh, Ashla?
Ashla, yeah.
Oh, cool, okay. And I thought, like, that's really cool, but that's also her name that she goes by, I believe, in Tales of the Jedi. Yeah. So I figured whenever they said that, you're like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, and it goes further than that. I believe Ashla was originally her name when Clone Wars was first incepted.
I believe so, yeah. Which is also a name for, like, the light side of the Force or whatever, right?
Yeah, it was just going to be, here's a Padawan, here's going to be a crew. It was going to be a little more Rebels-like in terms of the crew, Clone Wars was, and then George Lucas is like, why don't you just use Anakin and Obi-Wan? And David's like, well, you won't let me, right? He goes, yeah, sure, use them. It's like, okay, but so is just like Obi-Wan's Padawan now? It's like, no, Anakin's. What are you talking about? Anakin doesn't have a Padawan. Yeah, he does.
He does now.
He does now.
And then all the community was like, what's he doing with a Padawan?
Yeah, and now we're like, oh, God, they're meeting. He said snips.
Yeah, right? How far it's come between all that.
Yep. And it'll always do that. That is the great burden of being a Star Wars fan, is eventually when people really don't like something, you just got to wait about a decade, and then they will.
I can't wait until like the 20th movie when we're in our 50s and stuff, and then you're like, they got the spinny sabers.
I love them.
Oh, they help me fly.
He's flying.
He flew away.
He's flying now.
Oh man, I can't wait for that. That'd be great.
Yeah, I know. Oh man. Yeah, fun book. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to more.
Yeah, me too. And I'm excited to see, with this kind of having a little bit of tie-ins with like things for Rebels and stuff like that too. I'll be excited for A New Dawn to see what that covers as well.
I saw some people before the show being like, "Oh, they're covering Ahsoka? That was convenient timing." It's like, we do think this stuff through sometimes.
No, we tried to.
But yeah,
we tried to do that.
Yep. But yeah, like we said, the next book is going to be A New Dawn, and that might have some stuff to do with Ahsoka in a way. Maybe not as connected. Yeah, as this month's.
I'd like to look and see if anyone had any questions, especially if they pertain to the book.
Okay, we'll try to get Ahsoka questions first, and then move on to.
Maybe we can do other ones. But like, if there's anything, especially for the book and stuff, it'd be nice to kind of like discuss some of those aspects and stuff too.
We'll see. There's a lot of stuff going on in the Star Wars world, so the questions are probably pretty broad. Anyway, yeah, I don't know if we have any specifically for Ahsoka novel, Aaron.
I mean, hang on, we're scrolling. Let's quick.
Okay, Aaron's reading. I will fill in this dead air by quoting something. What do I want to quote? You're reckless, little one. You wouldn't make it as Obi-Wan's Padawan, but you just might make it as mine.
That one's not exactly tied to it either. Dang. A lot of them go with the show.
Okay.
We'll go with Mr. Chewbacca at the bottom here. His can cover this, but it can also go with other things. But
okay.
What's your favorite Ahsoka moment?
Ever?
It just says Ahsoka moment. So I don't know. It could be the book.
I don't know what
it could be the show. It could be Clone Wars. It could be Rebels.
I don't know what it says about me that the first thing that popped in my brain was when Ahsoka beheaded 4 Mandalorians at once. But that shouldn't be my favorite. But it was the first thing I thought of.
When she went to Concord Dawn or whatever it was on the moon,
the snow planet,
jumped out of the tent and just did a barrel roll.
That was one of the most badass cutthroat moves in the history of Star Wars, and it was done by a 12-year-old. So I immediately, that's not my favorite moment, but it certainly was the one I recall the quickest.
The two that I thought of and I'm gonna cheat 'cause this is what you do sometimes. So.
Yeah, I cheat.
One is I really just love, and she did it in the Ahsoka series, but she also did it in Clone Wars when she throws her sabers down and cuts a giant circle and they fall through. I love it so much. Yeah. Like I don't know why. It makes me think of I think it was a deleted scene for episode 3, right, where like Anakin and Obi-Wan do that and cut a hole and fall through, but like she doesn't have anyone else, so she can do it herself with her 2 sabers, and I love that. The other one that I think is one of my favorite scenes with Ahsoka is it's actually Tales of the Jedi.
Okay.
The second episode of hers.
Okay.
I love what that one does with what happens in Clone Wars.
Yeah, so the trainings.
When you have Order 66, but it starts where it's like, and you have Kanan there and stuff, and she's like doing this, and it's like, look, I passed.
Yeah.
That wasn't it.
I know.
That was easy. Anyone can pass that.
That's a great
You want a real test? I'll get you a test. And I love that Anakin prepares her, and like it's partly an Anakin moment in that a little bit too, but it's her being able to defend shots from the clones, and I love it. I love it so much.
Like the Jedi fall because of Anakin Skywalker, but Ahsoka Tano lives because of Anakin Skywalker. Yeah, and that's a really good one.
Yeah.
And it also is probably cheating, but how can we not mention Twilight of the Apprentice? When finally we have that confrontation that was years and years in the making, and Ahsoka comes at Vader to say, like, I can't believe I ever thought that you could be my master. He would never be something as vile as you. Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him. Then I'll avenge his death. And then there's that little bit of Anakin in there that can't help but say, because he says this in the Clone Wars, Snips, revenge isn't the Jedi way. So Vader says that, and then Ahsoka, I am no Jedi. It's one of the greatest moments in Star Wars, because it has so much history and depth and emotion and character and love and hate in it. So much.
There's a lot of emotion at one time, Eric.
Yep.
I don't think you had that much emotion
I
one time.
can process it. I can.
No.
I've reacted to it twice.
I do love Twilight of the Apprentice. It's really good.
Yeah.
No, and like there's so many other good moments with Ahsoka and stuff too, and sometimes it's just the mission that she's on. Like I love her with the younglings.
Yeah.
Like that in Clone Wars is really good.
The Gathering, that's a good one. I personally like the Padawan Lost episode with the Trandos,
with Chewbacca.
Trandoshans and Chewbacca. That's a really good episode, but specifically with the young Jedi younglings.
Yeah.
Like showing why Ahsoka, specifically as Anakin's Padawan, like has enough bullheadedness to not let herself be beaten by these things.
Sure.
Whereas the other Padawans have, because their Jedi probably are a lot more by the book.
Yeah.
Right?
There's the other part that we talked about in Tales that I love. It might be less of an Ahsoka and more of a Bail moment, but I love when he's like talking to those stormtroopers while she's up on the roof and being like, well, if you ever need anything, just let me know.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
And those guys are like, what?
Yeah.
But I love the message to her during that moment there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It was really good.
And then special shout out to when she's leaving the Order. I mean, a beautiful scene. But specifically when Anakin's like, I understand why you want to leave. I can't remember the exact quote. It's like, more than you know. And she kind of like turns and was like, hey, I know. I know that you love Padme. I know what's happening. I don't say anything because I love you. Right? It's a really special moment, too. That in leaving the Jedi Order, Anakin kind of is like, can I come? In a way.
Sure.
Right?
No, I get what you mean.
Yeah. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chewbacca. Okay. Superdora says favorite new character from the book. Mine was Zelda. Nice to see fellow Torguda.
Yep. In the cantina, right?
Maybe. I don't remember Zelda.
Zelda's cantina, I think, is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that there was a solace. It might be for me either Caden. Is that how you say the name, I think? Though I also really liked I liked the little girl. That was the Force-sensitive girl, but I can't remember her name.
Her name was Hadala Farty. Do that on purpose.
I really liked her as well, and like she doesn't really know what she can do, but I like how she like describes when the Inquisitor was there and how
it makes her feel.
Yeah, this dark shadow and stuff, and like it has rays that hurt, and I worry about her, and I'm like, I hope she's okay, you know. And they're like, keep an eye on her. She has special abilities, and.
In terms of a favorite character, I can't really think of mine, but I can think of my wife Jancy's least favorite character, or at least the least favorite moment. It was when Caden Lardy gets really angry that Ahsoka didn't tell anybody that she was a Jedi. And it's like, if it wasn't for you, then Hoban would have lived, you know? And Jancy, who's really only known Ahsoka just in this book, got very defensive. Like, oh, you shut up, you know? Like, she doesn't owe you anything, and you were tricking her, and you put in the explosion, you know? Like,
well, yeah.
And I wanted to
that
be
was
like,
someone else's idea, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, it was. But, like, it was just a nature of, like, because you're a Jedi, I'm owed your complete usage of the Force to save my people, you know? Like, obviously, you can understand why somebody gets upset in that moment. They're not thinking rationally, they're thinking emotionally. But I just really, really enjoyed listening to my wife react that way and defend Ahsoka so harshly, despite not knowing her other than this book. I like that part.
Gotcha. Okay. Next question we have is from, we have Irish Nexus, who says, did you pick up on why Ahsoka was collecting the scrap, or did it take you until it was made explicit?
That it was lightsabers, right?
Making lightsaber stuff?
I picked it up immediately.
Did you?
Yeah, ever since, like, the first moment is when she gets it from, like, under her mattress or her pillow or something, right?
I remember, like, stormtroopers looking at, like, metal stuff and being like, well, this stuff's not important.
They ended up finding it when they searched her room, I think.
But they were like, this is nothing.
Yeah, no, it's immediately what I thought of.
Gotcha.
But
I don't remember.
Mainly because the kind of like way they were describing it really reminded me of a book called I, Jedi with Coran Horn, which was a post-Return of the Jedi Legends novel, and he at one point is trying to scrounge together a lightsaber, and some of the things that they talked about were similar. Like, he ends up using the like handlebar of a swoop bike to create his. And Ahsoka was like finding these little tiny things, and she effectively just kind of like makes temporary hilts for the end, right? Oh, I especially really loved the moment when Bail Organa asks to see the white lightsabers because he's never seen that before, and he describes them as beautiful. I like that too.
Yeah, I don't remember how I felt about that. My initial time going through it has been a while.
Gotcha.
And I don't remember being like, oh, what's this for? And I don't know when I was like, I bet she's making lightsabers, or I bet she's making a bomb, or I bet she's, you know, I don't remember what I thought.
In fact, I think that they started describing it, and Jancy's like, what's that? And I go, lightsabers.
Fabian Perception says, do you think we'll see Ahsoka not shy away from attachments by the... Oh, that's for the show. But we could still talk about that, I guess so, too. I thought we were lower on the list here. We'll come back to that one.
Okay. We'll get to most of these.
Ninjario, of all the characters that Ahsoka interacted with on Rada, except for Kaden, maybe, since she was the most important, which ones stuck with you? Were there any characters on Rada that stuck with you the most?
Zelda, just because of the description of her having a missing Leku, him having a missing Leku.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, that sucks. Like, I wonder what all they use that for. Do they use that for any type of like nonverbal communication? Do they use that for, what's it like to not have that? Does your head just do this?
Yeah. Is your head off balance?
Yeah.
Is it? I don't know what they do, if they do anything. You know. I mean, are they used for intimacy? I don't know. I mean, that could be a possibility, right?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I'd probably go with Hadala, the Force-sensitive child, was an interesting thing, just because it got Ahsoka thinking about there's going to be so many children like this that the Empire's going to chew up and destroy, and maybe this fledgling rebellion might need someone that can identify those type of things. I don't know, because I mean, she takes a huge interest in the training of Ezra Bridger.
Characters on Rada, I don't think there were many that stuck with me. I think Kaden was the main one that stuck with me on them.
Yeah.
I remembered the Imperial a little bit. That was just because I didn't like him. Because I remember like he's like kind of smug, had his data pad thing that he'd be like, and I just was like, stupid Imperial dude. But I don't remember any of the other guys really sticking with me. So
what did stick with me that we didn't mention though is Ahsoka's reuniting with R2.
I mentioned R2, didn't I?
You might have.
I guess a little bit when I talk about Bail Organa, we were talking about him,
but even just the idea that R2 like let her in without telling anybody.
Yeah, not like the moment of the meeting or anything.
The moment was pretty great.
Sure. Yeah, because he opened up so that she could get back on board,
the hatch,
right?
Yeah. So that she could sneak into Bale's office.
Yeah, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, and I also love that mirror where she tries to go in the same way, and Bale's like, "Oh, do I have a Jedi coming after me? Huh?" And she's like, "Oh, I can appreciate that he learns from his mistakes."
So, thank you for the question, Ninjario.
Yep.
And that might be all that we have for
Ahsoka novel questions.
Yeah, it might be. So we might go into a few more general
Ahsoka let's do
questions.
I'm excited.
So, more general stuff, we have my name is Matt, says, who, in your opinion, is a better representation of a Jedi, Luke Skywalker or Ahsoka Tano?
There's a part of me that objects to the question itself.
Why?
Well, because what is it to be a Jedi?
I think it's Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I think it's Ahsoka because what it is to be a Jedi is what she encapsulates the most. Like, she leaves the Jedi Order because of things that are going on and how she doesn't feel like they are doing the best that they could and the most that they could. But even while she's out and gone, she still strives for being helpful for people.
Yeah.
She'll usually try to be a peacekeeper first, but she's also not afraid of fighting and helping people if she needs to. And I think that out of a lot of them, like, especially if you compare Luke Skywalker, like, he learns about it late. He doesn't really know a lot about it. And then when you get into the later movies and stuff too, like, it still kind of feels like he might not understand it as much as, like, maybe dead ghost Yoda does now, right? Like the page turners, they were not.
Sure.
You know, Rey doesn't need all that kind of stuff. And I think there's like a different aspect of what the Jedi are meant to be. And maybe by this point Yoda has realized that. But I don't even know if Luke fully realizes that by then. But I think Ahsoka kind of has a better grasp on it.
Yeah. We'd really have to really work down the standard in which Jedi should be judged. But if the standard is like it is the destiny for a Jedi to confront fear, Luke Skywalker certainly has confronted a lot of fear, not only in the original trilogy, but especially in the sequel trilogy. Fear of his own failure, fear of others, fear of rejection, fear of all that stuff. But Ahsoka goes through that too. Honestly, when I think of like a perfect Jedi moment or a perfect Jedi act, sometimes it's inaction. Like when Maul kills Satine in front of Obi-Wan to get him to feel something, and Obi-Wan is like, it takes strength to resist the dark side, and in that you're nothing, and he still doesn't do it, even though he sees the person that he loves murdered. You know, there's something there that I've always respected so much about Obi-Wan's commitment to being a force of good and a true Jedi. But I also feel that way with with Luke Skywalker confronting Kylo Ren, the person that broke him, right? That with premonitions of the future saying this kid is going to be terrible, a moment's hesitation made that so. Like, that's terrifying. But Luke confronts that fear, not necessarily in person, but certainly to the death, right?
Sure.
So, I don't know. I feel like I have to say Luke in that regard, but Ahsoka, for me, even though she effectively is not a Jedi, or at least that's what she says, she's probably one of the best examples of a Jedi life lived.
See, I think the fact that she doesn't call her a Jedi kind of enforces more so how Jedi-like she is.
Yeah.
Like, there's not even the arrogance that she is a Jedi. Like, there's not that label of what she is with that idea. Whereas Luke Skywalker has no problem saying that I'm a Jedi like my father before me,
Yeah.
So I think there's an element there that is also reflected into why she is such a good Jedi, is because she refuses to also call herself a Jedi because she feels like she doesn't embody what it needs to be. Like, she doesn't believe that she's a good enough person to be a Jedi. Yeah. So, like, she's not full of, well, the Jedi, this is what we are, this is what we do. She just tries to do all the good that she can.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is like Batman isn't going to go around being like, I'm a hero.
Yeah, he runs around going, I'm Batman.
But he's like, I'm not a hero. I'm a Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a loaded, interesting question that we could go through so many different directions to try to answer. But
sure.
if I'm forced to, I might go Luke, just because I feel like in terms of confronting fear, he's had to do a lot of soul searching with that.
Right. I go with Ahsoka. So
Alrighty.
Chat, you can tell us what you think.
You decide.
And we'll go into another question. Turning the top one. Okay, we'll move on down. Devanshu Pandey. Hi, Aaron and Eric. Do you have any theories on how Ahsoka landed in the world between worlds? Do you think that they'll explain it? I was just as confused as excited when I saw it.
No.
I don't know.
She fell off the cliff. We know that that planet has been visited by Purgle. She landed onto a Purgle that instantly teleported into the world between worlds because that's what they do. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not certain.
Yeah.
I don't know if I imagine we'll get. I imagine she gets out of it, and by getting out of it, we'll maybe realize how she got into it. But
I mean, my thought is simply we'll deal with whatever she's going to deal with there, and then she's going to wake up in the water and come out.
I mean, very well.
And it's all happening in a second, right? Because, I mean, stuff like Mortis, Rex says, like, you didn't leave, sir. You were there the whole time.
Sure.
You know, but that stuff.
But in the World Between Worlds episode in Rebels, Ezra goes in, and Sabine's wrecking stuff outside.
You're right.
Actually, she's not, but, like, Zeb and Hera come down and start, like,
I get it.
in with booze. Like, there's I don't know, let's just say 20 minutes pass while he's inside there. So there is, like, at least in that situation, time keeps moving. But he goes out the same one. And actually, yeah, it must work that way, right? Because Ahsoka leaves too, which is after the events of Vader and the crashing of everything too. So.
But that was also a world between worlds that had like an entrance and exit, whereas it feels like Ahsoka just kind of like went to it.
What if she fell into an entrance?
There just happens to be like a ancient Jedi temple ruin down there.
There happens to be a wolf.
Damn!
A water wolf. That catches her and takes her in because it's Dave Filoni.
Okay, water wolf.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I could see a water wolf,
I could see
right?
a water wolf.
Dave puts wolves everywhere.
He does.
So it's a water wolf, guys. That's what it is.
More than we know. Have you looked at any people that are translating the
map,
the credit in the map?
I haven't.
Yeah, I've looked at some. There's one that's really funny, interesting.
Like,
but
are they right? Are they just
no? They're
assumptions?
Yeah, no.
They...
Well, there's some of them are still like they're breaking the cipher, but they're able to break enough words where it's like it must be this because they're all planet names.
So they know what the last location is then?
Yes. I won't say that one, but the one right as you start to leave the galaxy, there's a location you pass by, and that one is Odin. Interesting, right? Odin from Norse mythology, but you also have Shin Hati and Balin Skull, which are two wolves from Norse mythology. So Odin being the star system or planet or whatever, that's going to be interesting there.
Right.
And Odin is also very much with wolves.
I'm going to make one guess,
Yeah.
and you just have to tell me if it's right or wrong.
Okay.
If this is what the last planet is. Does it say Earth?
No.
Damn, okay.
Would you want that?
It's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away,
I know,
okay? How
that's
far we
not
going?
the question. Would you want that?
I don't know.
I wouldn't want that.
I don't know.
I don't want being like, and then we came down and.
But as a kid, you know, the idea of being like, man, it's out there. It's just really far away, you know. And we just got these stories now, and it's taken so long to get to us, you know. Like, as a kid, it sounds fun and stuff. As an adult, I don't know. I don't know if I'd like it, but I think it.
I'm sure I would get over it eventually, but I would not, in my first reaction, be like, "Yay!"
So, all right. Well, it's not Earth, guys.
But
so
we do see like Coruscant. We see Alderaan,
Tatooine,
Lothal, all the big hitters. Dathomir. We see a lot of big hitters, but Odin for me was a new one. And then there was there is a translation for the planet that they go to, but I didn't want to say it yet, just in case.
Yes, it might be something, Eric.
Might be.
Maybe it's not. I don't know. The Honk says, since this book follows Ahsoka and the next one is about Kanan and Hera, it begs the question, what character from one of the animated series would you want to get a novel focusing on them?
Ooh, a novel focusing on them. Ooh, that would be cool.
So animated character, right?
Yeah.
What character from one of the animated series? I'm trying to think of what original animated one, because that's the thing too. Is like there's so many animated characters that have been in live action.
Yeah.
Well, we've already had Asajj and Quinlan. I mean, you could say Zeb maybe, but
like Zeb in the like honor guard,
like Zeb before, or Zeb and Callus like after.
Ooh, that would be cool.
That might be like
neat. Resettling the new what's it called? What's the name of their planet?
The new Lasat planet.
Yeah, Lasat Prime or whatever.
I don't know what they call the new
like,
one.
We this was our original home world, and then we went to Lasat that was destroyed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be cool. I would like that.
That's all I really got in Rebels. I mean, you could do a Honda one, maybe, but I don't know if
Honda novel.
I think it's more interesting for him to like show up in someone else's. Like he's a fun part.
He's a fantastic like obstacle.
Yeah.
Like whether it's good or bad, he's a great obstacle.
Maybe clones. Like I don't know if I'd want Bad Batch or Rex or Cody or you know any of that, but that's one of the things here is like they talk about how like Rex and Ahsoka like part ways and go to different locations, which we've kind of seen that throughout what we've Rebels and whatnot. It's like,
and we got some Bad Batch
they're not in the same
stuff.
places, but like Rex getting Wolf and Gregor, right? Like somehow those three team up.
Yeah.
Like we don't really know that story yet. And I don't know if to expect it to happen somewhere in like Bad Batch or anything, or could you have a book where Rex helps get Cody and Wolf, and now it's those three like surviving through a story against the Empire or something,
That'd be cool.
Until eventually they go all Jaws style out hunting on that dune sea of whatever planet it was.
It's not an animated character, but I'm just so intrigued by Baylan so much.
Baylan?
Yeah, from the Ahsoka show. And I've mentioned it a couple times, but there's been some people being like, Eric, you should do a cosplay. And I'm like, that's the first time I've ever been tempted to do a cosplay.
Really?
Of Baylan. So, a novel from him or some type of short.
I think it's another Jedi that it wouldn't be a novel, but it'd be cool to have the idea of Tales of the Jedi, right? Well, we don't know anything about Baylan, so
that would be a good spot.
Show me 3 Baylan episodes and give me a feel of who he was.
Yeah,
like it can be like before the Clone Wars, during the Clone Wars, and then after the Clone Wars, maybe him meeting Shin or getting a Sith apprentice.
And we very briefly saw Delta Squad in Clone Wars, the guys from Republic Commando video game. So maybe like a novel recanonizing some of the stuff that they went through.
Yeah,
would be fun.
I don't believe they've been in any of the current canon anymore. So. Just that moment there.
I mean, we might be ignorant, but yes.
I like Heath Farm who says, Ben Quadraneros.
The tool from Tund. We had some tools in the Martez sister arc. Weren't they like a foreman with a Trando? They were like workers, and they had a Trando foreman, and they're pretty much just heads with arms and legs.
Yeah.
We had a couple of them. I'd like to see like a Sith Tund.
A Sith
tool from Tund.
A Sith tool Tund?
Yep. That would be scary.
I guess so.
Imagine it's like Darth Vader's helmet and then his arms and legs.
Yeah. It'd be like it'd be like Krell, but less intimidating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You know what? A General Krell before the fall. I mean, I'm sure he's always been a butthole, but that would be kind of cool to see more Krell.
Sure.
Yeah.
Barriss.
Barrissoffy.
What the hell ever happened to her?
That's
one of them that I'm like,
I don't know, but I want to know so bad just so we can stop with every single time there's a mystery character. People are like, it's Barriss. It happens every time. Every time.
Who do we have?
Huh?
Who do we have that with? Besides Ahsoka.
Well, yeah, we had that most recently with them. But the Jedi Fallen Order, the Second Sister, any character that's ever been masked, people are like, oh, it's Barriss. Even when the biotypes don't match up.
Really?
Yeah, but no, it's been a thing for like the last, I don't know,
I don't
5,
remember that
6
with
years.
Fallen Order or anything.
Yeah.
So, but I was just like, I remember one.
Yeah.
I knew the one. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It could have been cool.
No, I mean, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, when they first saw that in the trailer, people were like, that's Barriss. It's going to be her.
Oh,
Trust
really?
me.
People thought, so
yeah,
basically
the
just
Second Sister.
So basically just any masked Inquisitor. They're like,
Yes.
it's Barriss.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, did they do it with, Zoe? Was that her name? In episode 9? Zori Bliss.
Zori Bliss. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen anything about Zori Bliss.
I was like, to see, I bet that's Barriss. Look at that.
I like Zori, and I really like her design, but yeah, they don't really. I haven't seen anything from her.
No. She wasn't heavily utilized in that movie, really.
Yeah,
I don't feel like
Spice Runners of Kijimi or something like that, right?
They need to make a book about her, if they haven't already.
I really want to get to Shadow of the Sith or whatever that book is. That's supposed to really help enhance some sequel stuff.
Luke and Lando.
But
right?
I personally don't get me wrong. I loved Resistance for what it was, but it did not do what Clone Wars and Rebels did for other eras of Star Wars. And I understand some people not liking the sequel trilogy, but I mean, in my opinion, just by having gauged what it was then versus what it is now, like I think people hated the prequels just as much, if not more, than current people hate the sequels. And the Clone Wars show
helped
changed that, for a lot of people. And I think that could be done for the sequel trilogy too. But Lucasfilm will do exactly what it did when it bought it, which is like, don't mention the prequels at all. No one likes them. Let's only do this.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like it feels like they do a knee-jerk reaction to like, okay, stay away from this because nobody liked that. Let's do this. And they do that, and they're like, okay, no one likes that, so stay away from that. Let's go back to the prequels and really do a lot more with that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, all right. But I hope so, too. I would like to fill in more stories around. And that's what I'm hoping for with the, New Jedi Order, I think is what the movie's going to be called, with after episode 9 and what they do with that. And I'm like, yeah, fill in some stories there, fill in some time in between the movies or whatever. Tell other stories with Poe or Kaz around those, around those movies, and maybe it can just fill in some more moments.
Agreed.
So, I hope so.
Yeah.
Speaking of Barriss too, that was another moment where Ahsoka is thinking about betrayal, and she thinks about
in the novel,
Barriss Offee and like how she betrayed her, and
like Barriss was right. Kinda.
Yeah. Because, like, looking back, it's like, well, yeah, I guess the Republic was falling and turning into this, and that's terrible. But she also betrayed me and tried to blame her for murder and, all these things. I'm like...
Also, I mean, I don't think it gets mentioned a lot, but Barriss versus Anakin in the Clone Wars is, like, in my top 10 Clone Wars lightsaber fights.
Barriss versus
no
Anakin?
Joke, because, honestly, a lot of the kind of, we call them, like, filler fights... There's nothing really special to me in terms of a lot of the times they look like action figures fighting to me, But it's only the ones that really elevate either the storyline, like Sidious versus Maul and Savage, or they elevate the production, which is Ahsoka versus Maul. But I personally love the Barriss versus Anakin fight because of the huge gap in skill between the two. Barriss has to make up for the fact that Anakin is so much stronger than she is.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, they're both using two lightsabers and stuff, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Anakin is using that Din Jim So, Luke fighting Vader, and just wears her down. And I've always really enjoyed that fight.
Sure. Most of the Clone Wars fights, I feel like, are usually like Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting Dooku, and it can't go very far with anything, right?
Yeah. And there also isn't a lot of, like, at least for me, like, interesting points in the choreography to link the fluff. It's either all fluff or no fluff sometimes. It's okay, but they're not my favorite lightsaber fights.
Sure.
Whereas I felt like, and I kind of felt that way with the first couple of fights we saw in the Ahsoka series, but I lost all of it with this last one, episode 4.
Yeah. Mimi makes a good point, too, in the chat saying we're getting there. Talking about us and filling out more stuff in the later episodes. Because, I mean, they're right. We've had, like, with what we have with, like, Ahsoka, Mandalorian especially.
Yeah.
There's been Bad Batch. Like, both of those have focused a lot on, like, the cloning aspect. And it really feels like we're leading into the idea of, like, of Palpatine. Like, sure, we had the Death Star, and he also had, the TIE Defender program being worked on. He also had, Star Killer being worked on, right? Like, he had all these things working on. He also had, like, the necromancy program or whatever he called it, right? I think there was something like that at some point that they called.
Yeah, they said that in season 3 of Mando.
Yeah, they called it something necromancy or something like that. Like, he's had all these different, like, projects being worked on and stuff, and this helps to feed in that one that so many people were like, man, he's back again? That came out of nowhere. And it's like, well, if you read the books, like, that was a plot point that occurred. But if you didn't read the books, it's just like, well, that's out of left field. He's
Yeah.
back. What happened to Snoke? It's like, oh, he was Snoke,
Yeah.
or what?
Yeah.
It gets kind of confusing.
That
So.
I must say that was my favorite Merrick theory that I did read in the last week. It's Snoke. And I'm
Hey,
like,
Snoke.
damn, that'd be sweet.
I kind of like that, man.
Project Necromancer. That's what.
Yeah,
they say.
Necromancer.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. So yeah, I thought that.
Yeah.
Thinking about that, like, yeah, we're getting to that
Yeah.
point. It's just not there yet.
Yeah. It was said in the chat. Thank you, Gonk. But if we do want to throw up the super chats, we can throw up the super chats and get to those as well.
Yeah, sure. If we have the super chats available, we can run through some of those and see what we have.
And we want to appreciate everybody that supports the show. Thank you so much. The
Thank
super chats
you.
are awesome.
Samil, what is it?
Battenfield.
Battenfield. Super chat with $5. Way off topic, but I think that they'll save the Inquisitor lightsaber flying helicopter thing for the movie that culminates these shows. That'd be great.
Maybe.
I hope. I hope that we get the fifth brother.
Yeah.
In the movie, because we've already casted a person for him, right? And did he die on the? He didn't. Did he die on Malachor? He died on Malachor, didn't he?
He died.
Dang. Never mind.
Yep.
I guess it won't work then.
Nope.
I'm trying to think what other Inquisitors we have that they
Very
could use
certain
it.
that he was killed, as was the seventh or the third. Which sister was that?
There's a lot of numbers.
Ninth sister. Sarah Michelle Gellar.
She wasn't seventh. Was it
Maybe
fifth,
she's
fifth
seventh
brother
sister.
and seventh sister?
Second sister is Jedi Fallen Order. Seventh sister is Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Which one?
Third sister is
Moses?
Big girl.
Which
Oh
one?
no,
Moses?
third sister is Moses Ingram. Ninth sister is Big Girl from Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
There's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah. Then we have sixth brother that was in this.
Yep.
And then didn't we have another Inquisitor that was in Jedi not Survivor, what was the book called? Battlescar. Wasn't there was another Inquisitor in there?
That was
wasn't
the fifth brother.
Oh, that was the fifth brother too.
Mhm.
Well then. All right.
Because I remember like him being like really good, and I remember being like, "Since when?"
All right. Well, yeah, maybe we'll see flying helicopters. I'd love to see it once in live action.
Yeah, me too. Hey, you know what? I mean, season 3 of Mando, season 2 definitely did it. Season 2's Mando Darksaber looked so much better than any time before it. You know, it started adding that kind of like rainbow like lens flare to it.
Yeah.
And I ended up liking it a bit more. Maybe seeing it in live action, I'll be like, guys, that looks awesome. Cool. Good job. You know?
Yeah, that's right. It was the other brother on Malachor too that was trying to use that and fly away, right?
Yeah.
And then it was broken and he fell.
Yeah, he fell.
He might not have died.
He fell
He
from
might-
very high.
Don't they have the Force?
I mean, they do, but they're Inquisitors, and they have to use those stupid lightsabers to be intimidating.
Maybe as he was falling, he was just like.
Though, to be fair, I think he was meant to be the same species as the jumper that stole Ahsoka's lightsaber, and she can fall from incredible heights, so maybe. But I choose to believe that that thing broke and he died.
All right. This is why
At the very least, he doesn't have a ship anymore, because Maul takes it.
Yeah, that's why.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. He might get blown
He's
up
probably
by
just
that
stuck on
thing.
Malachor.
Well, Ahsoka was too.
She was.
All right, Caleb Diaz with Super Chat, $4.99. Thank you so much. When we were watching Tales of the Jedi, I thought it would be a cool bookend for the Dooku to bleed Yaddle's crystal and Ahsoka to purify the Inquisitors.
I get what you mean, yeah.
So Dooku gets his red saber from Yaddle's.
We don't know how he bled.
Sure, he could have also just
lightsaber.
bled his own.
Yeah. True.
Which it might have been easier because
Yeah.
it's already in his saber.
Yeah. But, I mean, I remember when we were watching that, like, I kind of, like, either said it in the reaction or said it after. I was kind of wondering, like, is this going to be the moment where he bleeds his lightsaber? But what we got is amazing anyway, so
Yeah.
I don't care too much. But that's a cool idea that could have been a bookend in that show.
Gamer Harold with a super
Harold!
chat. It says, hype it up for Aaron and
Hype
Mr.
it
Eric.
up.
Well, thank you, Gamer Harold. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Harold.
it. And then Kimmy G, looks like the last one here. Hey, guys, Kimmy G here. And thank you, $20 super chat.
Wow, thank you so much.
Just wanted to let you know how much I loved your reactions to episode 4 of Ahsoka. Such an incredible episode, and I know we're all on the edge of our seats for the next week for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. I've been excited for this series in general, just to see where they go with it. And
Yeah.
it feels like it's continuing a lot of like plot from Rebels that were like loose ends that have been just like in the back of my mind, be like, what are we doing with this? Right? Where's Barriss?
No, yeah, I know.
No.
Thank you so much. That's very nice. Especially the reaction to that last scene. There's like 12 different emotions from all of us in there. But I know that you specifically were talking about like, I want the World Between Worlds. I want the World Between Worlds in there. I think that would be so cool.
We gotta do that.
And every time you would say it in my head, I go, you're so right. I agree. You're such a smart man. I love you. But outwardly, I don't want to be like, I don't want to expect it. I don't want to think about it. I don't even want to consider it to be a thing. And I truly felt like I got there because when it showed up, it got me, and I felt utter surprise. But it's a surprise I kind of had to work for to not like immediately think that's what it was. You know?
Yeah. No, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
It's just I'm like we got that from Rebels. We need to get a little more information on it, and like when else are we gonna do it? And I want Dave to be the one to do it.
Yeah.
And I know he's working on this. Give me more of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we get there, what we do, and it could have even just been like we had the Mortis trilogy. We had the Mortis gods tied to this portal thing, but it also wasn't the Mortis gods that were there. It just had a connection to that, you know?
Yeah.
And even if it was something along those lines, I would have been happy to just have more. But I had, of course I had my theories too. Where I'm like, oh, maybe Balin's an old Republic Jedi or Sith, We pull him here accidentally from the World Between Worlds, and we gotta stop him. And, we're trying to get to Thrawn, but this guy's a big issue that we gotta deal with. And then whenever we got to it, I'm like, okay, well, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
He was in the Clone Wars. Like, well, all right. He seems really cool, though.
Yeah.
So let's just go with this, and he's from the Clone Wars. I like that.
Yeah.
Maybe there's no War Between Worlds. I'm like, yes, this is what I wanted. I'm so glad we got it.
If there's one thing that I wish the greater Star Wars community would really try to rein in, get broken.
Why were these wires?
Are we back? I think we're back.
Are we back? Can you guys hear us?
Hello?
Good?
Yeah? Yep. Okay, I think we're back.
All right.
Anyway, what was I saying?
I don't know. Let's move on.
Move on.
No, I forget. What were we saying?
Thank you, guys. Sorry about that. There was a small invasion because of the communication disruption, but we took care of it.
Apparently, it was Creep that did it because I saw where they said they had just joined in and then everything froze.
Dang it, Creep.
I think they did it too. So,
all right.
Well, we're back now.
We had another super chat.
We were talking about the speculation stuff, or you want to move on to?
I want to move on to Mimi92 Ikumi, who gave £5, I believe.
Yeah.
Your Snoke theory sucks, but for real, I love you guys.
Wait, what's the Snoke theory?
That's just Ryan. Have you ever seen the picture of Ryan Johnston? He's holding a picture and it says, "Your Snoke theory sucks."
I have not. No, I thought it was something we said, and they were like, "Well, I hate your Snoke theory."
I loved it. I thought it was hilarious, and that side of the fandom did not. They totally did not, and like this is evidence that they just don't respect us. It's like, motherfucker, it's Space Story. Shut up.
Respect your. I mean, I don't know. Like
I think I take Star Wars pretty seriously, but not that seriously.
I mean, you can make up theories and stuff too, but I don't think you need to be mad when someone's like, well, one, I don't think you should be mad when your theory doesn't pan out.
Yeah.
But two, I don't think you should be mad whenever they're like, hey, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not right.
Yeah.
And that he's probably shedding light on people being mad that they're not right.
Well, there's just the ownership feeling of something like Star Wars, where people have loved it for so much they kind of feel like, well, that's mine. I own that.
Sure.
If you mess it up, how dare you take that from me? But you don't. These are stories from artists in various walks, beliefs, thoughts, taste, and there's a little bit of Star Wars for
I always bring back the food.
Because I like food and I like to taste.
But no, I get you. I wasn't upset when Balin wasn't a member of the Old Republic or anything, you know. I was just like, oh, okay, well, we're not going there.
Sure.
Let's see what we are going to get. What is the story going to be with him?
Mm-hmm. I remember it was a celebration, I think, it was a celebration after The Force Awakens. Maybe it was right before. But someone just came up to Lawrence Kasdan and was like, so is Snoke Darth Plagueis or not? And he goes, who's Darth Plagueis?
To be fair, if he was Darth Plagueis, that would also be my answer, you know?
But you know what? He wasn't.
Sure, no. All right. Well, I think that's all of the super chats. So
yeah, thank you guys so much.
We will grab a few more questions before we start wrapping things up here because Gonk has to be recharging his battery here before too much longer.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get back to that. Sorry about the invasion that was occurring and the loss in communication. But yeah, that's where we are. All right, Gonk, enhance. All right. Oh, we moved. I don't know who was gonna ask this question. I was gonna ask it. We'll go do a different one then. Keltgen. This is one that we probably should address on Wave Squadron. Eric, when are you going to be playing Jedi Survivor? Recently, you hadn't been because you were stuck in that other foolish game, whatever it was called. Which you have since finished.
Yes, I have. I will be playing it after October. October, we're going to be having our Scream stream, and I'm going to be playing Dead Space for the first time. I'm taking a little bit of a break just because we've been kind of doing that for the last year or so, where some of us play a game once or twice a week, and then another person takes that time off. It's our free time, pretty much.
Yeah.
But it's just a way of being able to kind of have a little bit of extra free time, which is something that feels like we don't have more and more. But, I mean, it's still a lot of fun. I enjoy every moment I spend on Blind Wave, honestly. But I'm taking a small break, and then I'll be jumping into Survivor after October, which is going to, I think, work out for me, too, because right now I'm really obsessed with Ahsoka, and we have that up on the channel and coming out every week. And then once that's over, now Survivor can start coming out. Because guess what, everybody? Because of the strike, there is going to be a drought of a lot of the content that you usually are looking for when it comes to television and movies. So I'll be able to pick up a Star Wars game that I missed during that drought.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it will be coming probably beginning of November, which I really enjoyed Survivor, so I'm interested to finally talk about it too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to replay it though, so I can remember everything.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
I don't have the time. I'm busy. All right. Next question. Let's see. We have Ricky Morales, who asked, "Why was Anakin dressed up as Revenge of the Sith Anakin when he saw Ahsoka, or was it actually the sun?"
Don't know. I have no idea. Why was he wearing Jedi robes that we never saw him wear in Episode 6? Is it because it was just a head that George Lucas shot? Yes, but that doesn't answer the canon question.
And they just put him into basically what Obi-Wan wears, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
I have no idea.
It could also be related to, like, that's kind of the last way that Ahsoka saw him, right?
That is true. He did look exactly the way he looked when she left in Siege of Mandalore.
To head to Siege of Mandalore. So, like, that's like her last view of, like, Anakin. Like, not like Darth Vader, but that might be her last view of Anakin,
Sure.
and it's replicating the last vision she has.
If he's the son, I mean, look, if they bring the son stuff in, I'm sure I'll love it, but I personally would be a little more interested if it's more of, like in Inception, Cobb sees this vision of his wife. His wife is gone, but he sees her and is haunted by her, and all the things that he's afraid about himself, she brings out and says. What if you can do that with an Anakin/Vader character inside the mind of Ahsoka, who is inside the world between worlds?
Okay. How about, and this can go with the son idea a little bit, in the Mortis trilogy, the son died, right? Or was he the only one that was left alive? Because the daughter gave herself to save
all died, right?
Ahsoka,
Yeah.
right? And then the father was killed. And then I thought the son died too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But
It's been a while since I watched those episodes.
They did exist, right?
I don't know.
So when they die, where do they go?
I don't know.
And Ahsoka has now been resurrected with the spirit of the daughter, right? So when Ahsoka dies, does she perhaps not do the same thing and it gets sent to the world between worlds? Thus, that's where also the son could be, and that's why they're both there.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know either, but
We're not. We're too sober for this conversation.
what? So I don't know. It's hard to see, but I'm excited to see where they go with it in the next episode. Regardless.
And then also, I mean, like we were talking about before, like I don't want to go so far into the theories that I'm one discovering what's going to happen, or two loving an idea so much that I'm disappointed with what does end up happening. So I'll just let Dave tell me. He knows what he's doing. He was there when Lucas gave him that assignment. What?
Which assignment?
Mortis.
Make the Mortis trilogy?
Yeah. You ever see like the after show of Dave being like, "So I got this script. Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. People are gonna hate me."
Well, we'll see what he does with it then.
Yeah. I like to think that sometimes George gives Dave a story idea just to see if he can do it. You know?
Yeah. Just to mess with him.
Yep.
Can you do this?
Yeah, we'll let him cook. You're right.
Let's see here. Abel, do you think the next episode will be her Ahsoka the White moment, getting her towards her Rebels finale look? I don't know. We might not actually get the big old staff with a robe thing, but if you look at like Lord of the Rings, like he kind of like died. He fell and was like, oh, he's dead. There he goes, and then he's brought back kind of as like Gandalf the White, and maybe that's kind of the idea. They fall off this far, into fire, but into water. They come back as the White.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, yeah. I mean, we know that Dave is a big Lord of the Rings fan. Gandalf, when he's brought back, Mithranda, when he's brought back, is because Saruman wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. So he was effectively brought back as, I am Saruman. I will be the White Wizard now. And Ahsoka, I don't think has like, okay, well, my master messed up, so now I'm going to be the chosen one. Anything like that. But I would still like to see it. And if we're ever going to do, I mean, it really depends on what this like collab movie that they're building to is going to be. But if that at all has anything to do with the new Jedi Order, it would be kind of badass to see like an elder Ahsoka in a white, like with the staff and stuff, like in that Jedi Order. That'd be kind of cool.
In the New Order?
Yeah.
No, can't be, because she's dead.
She doesn't have to be dead.
She does.
Doesn't?
She does.
Are you saying because of the voices that you hear?
Because the voices and every voice that was there was dead?
That doesn't mean that, though. Like
It doesn't mean that every voice there was dead?
No, we've heard voices from across the stars many times.
When?
Yoda.
Yeah, but we see Yoda.
But we also don't. We just hear him sometimes.
Yeah, but we don't hear dead voices.
But Yoda wasn't dead then.
He wasn't dead then, but he's dead now. So we heard 10 voices. 9 of them are dead, and one of them just happens to be alive somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous.
They were all like
it's
memory
logic.
voices for
just
the most
because
part.
one is dead doesn't mean that they're all dead.
They're all dead.
No.
That's where I'm going with it. Yep. I think if anything, she'll die in the movie, but somehow she didn't die yet.
I didn't have a hard opinion on it, but now I do.
All right. Mr. Chewbacca says, do you think that Rex could show up in Ahsoka? Man, he'd be real old. We saw him in Return of the Jedi last, so I don't know where he would be after that. I think he needs a rest.
I mean, yeah, he would just be old, right?
Old.
Like, he could still be in there. Tamir Morrison could pull off old.
Old.
Yeah.
Like real old.
I think it's more likely that than any other character we haven't seen. I bet you we'll get that before we get Zeb.
You think we get Rex in live action before Zeb?
Well, in the Ahsoka
Well, I guess
show.
we already had him kind of in live action in a way, right?
I'm just saying, like, it's a lot of money to get Zeb in there, but Tamir Morrison, like, you just give me a call, I'll be on the plane.
All right. You gotta get him in a big old white beard and have him just wearing that armor?
I'm just here at the Polynesian spa.
Rose Petal Goldie 2. I think I said that right.
Okay.
The letters. Okay. How likely do you think the whole Thrawn saga of Star Wars is connected to the sequels and the Palpy stuff?
I don't know. I mean, certainly the Project Necromancer mentioned by Hux in Mando 3 seems to be in competition with Thrawn.
Yeah.
When it comes to that Warlord Council, and that wouldn't be the first time that Thrawn is opposed to other elements of the Empire.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, he was opposed with the Death Star, like, against what Palpatine was wanting to do there. Mm-hmm. So it's very possible that he comes in not necessarily being an ally to the rest of the Empire, but trying to just take over and everything to run it the way he thinks it should be ran. Maybe.
I mean, I'll be curious. I mean, there's definitely a stark difference in Thrawn's demeanor and dialogue between his books and his Rebels appearances. I'm going to assume that we're going to match the Rebel appearances more, but I just hope that it's not so much that it nullifies the version of the character that I kind of prefer in the books.
Sure, no. I don't want to fully just not root on Thrawn. I want to kind of have I want to have mixed feelings on it. I want to kind of be on his side, but also be like, but he's kind of an ass. I don't know.
I'm kind of there with Baylan a little bit. Like I'm not on his side, but I'm willing to hear him out. Thrawn, like in Rebels, I never was like, well, let's see what he has to say. It's like, no, man, he killed the Bendu. I wanted to hear the Bendu talk.
I also wonder if there's like a greater threat kind of thing that we could deal with, where
Grisk.
Yeah, kind of like that, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like there's this threat that we need to work together against, and the war that they're afraid of really isn't Thrawn coming here to wage war against like the New Republic or whatever. Yeah. But it's more of he's going to come back here, and that's going to also bring this threat that we then have to fight against or something.
Sure.
But I don't know. And then that's what the movie's about. Mm-hmm. And we work with Thrawn.
I'd watch it.
Dev says, do you think we could get any Clone Wars flashbacks or Anakin showing that it's not her fault and she can have that closure?
Not only do I think we're going to, I think it's almost guaranteed because we're in the world between worlds.
I'm hoping that we see some Clone War type of flashbacks, at least for Baylan.
If it doesn't happen next episode, I will... What would I do? Help me out with like a challenge.
A challenge?
Yeah, what's something I could eat? Like a whole lasagna.
Why do you have to eat?
You're right. I usually do that. 2 lasagnas.
Why not like it needs to be punishment?
No lasagna.
You don't get to eat lasagna.
Damn it!
For a month.
Whoa! My wife isn't watching, is she? I don't want. You shut up.
You be quiet now.
No one heard anything.
Cut that out. We'll let Calvin slap you.
Okay, that's fine.
Then you still get lasagna.
All right. If there's no Clone Wars anything, next episode Calvin slaps me.
Sure.
All right, everybody. Yeah. You heard it here on Badonkagonk first.
All right. Hopefully that sounds okay. All right. So there you go. Make sure you guys tune into the next episode when Eric might get slapped.
I might. I'm just saying, if it's ever going to happen, this is the time.
Very true. Tribe Razula said, did Shin stop force choking Sabine on her own accord, or did Baylan use the force to stop her? I think he used a threatening, don't do that, and she stopped it.
Yeah, I would say so. Even not necessarily threatening, but just corrective. Like, she does have the element of being kind of like a dog on a leash, I feel like. Not to say that's how he treats her, but that's just currently her mindset. So I think that she is very obedient to him. But maybe not undeserved. Like, he might be kind of a cool master. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I certainly would have him over Palpatine.
Yeah,
Palpatine looks at you like a tool. Like, he might actually care. I mean, he's looking at what he knows are his enemies and being like, well, this is a Jedi, and that's rare. It's not something to be snuffed out so easily or so without concern, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah. But I think it was more of a command.
You definitely have a soft spot for him.
Bray Stevenson.
For Baylan.
Yep.
Whether for better or for worse.
I do.
I think he's a bad guy. We got to get rid of him.
Maybe. But doesn't he deserve consideration, Aaron?
Does he?
I think so.
Didn't he already have that?
No.
Did Krell deserve consideration?
Yeah.
Did he?
He deserved it. And they considered it.
Oh, man. Roberto Carlos says, do you think that we'll see live-action daughter or son? I mean, it's possible. But a lot of these kind of speculation questions, like I said, like I feel like most of these things are possible, but I don't know. We have no idea. And some of it, like Eric said, too, like getting too heavy into speculation can be fun, but also can sometimes mess up people's experiences.
True. And we also don't want to throw so much at new viewers either that they get too overwhelmed with stuff. Not that I think that's necessarily a bad thing, because, I mean, it is a living mythology that should build upon what's come before, but I imagine the world between worlds is going to be already such a huge...
For people who haven't seen the animation
thing, for
stuff,
people
right?
that have no idea what it is,
this?
that also adding, like, what is effectively a god, but also not, that and it both does and maybe doesn't exist at all. might be a little bit too much.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know.
I think he did come as he's come as a form of different things. I think he was Anakin at one point, to either Obi-Wan or Ahsoka in the Morse trilogy.
He was certainly Shmi Skywalker.
I know he did that for sure.
He was that like anti-Yoda blue thing when in the prison.
Yeah, but there's something at the ship I'm picturing, and I can't remember exactly what it was.
He turns Anakin.
Sure.
And Anakin goes dark and then has to forget everything.
Sure. But like Eric's saying too, I think that I agree. I think it can be too much. It's a thing where you're trying to balance people who are aware and aren't aware of everything, right? And you don't want anyone to feel left out, but you also want it to be like, hey, if you know, now I get that a little bit more, and that's really cool to add to it.
But if he does, I mean, I will just enjoy that we're seeing that live action, most likely played by Sam Witwer, if that's going to happen, right? Why would you not do that? Because not only did he voice the son, but the son's appearance is based off an alternate version of Starkiller from the game, right?
Yeah, different looks.
So,
all right. We don't have much more time here, so let's maybe one or two more questions, probably. Ultra Sergeant, that's a crazy question. What are the odds of Baylan and Shin being father and daughter? Like, you mean the father and the daughter, or you mean that they are a father and a daughter?
Oh, okay. I took it as they are a father and a daughter.
I'm assuming it's being father and daughter if just they are, like that is his daughter.
Sure. Well, they have different last names.
Do they? I only know Shin and Baylan. I don't even know last
Shin
names.
Hati and Baylan.
Where do you know this?
It's there.
Where are you reading this?
I don't know.
How are you getting information? I watched the show. They didn't tell me none of this
stuff.
stuff.
They said Baylan's full name, Baylan Skull.
Maybe I just don't pay attention.
And then Shin Hati. Yeah. I don't know. I had no names. If it's Star Wars, I know names. But they also talked about the connection to Norse mythology and the wolves in their last names. So that's where I got it. I'm just not sure where I heard it. Whether it was within a Blind Wave thing or without.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Maybe it was at Celebration. I don't know.
Maybe. Anyway, so we have two different last names, but that could be possible. Maybe she took her mother's last name.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Luke and Leia are twins and they have different last names.
Yeah, exactly. That's a thing. So it could be possible, but I don't know. Aaron forgot Christian Bale 5 times. Sure. That happened too.
Hey, it was 4. I don't know. It might have been 5.
I don't remember how many times it was. But yeah, I don't know. It could be an interesting thing, but I don't know that that's the route we go. But I would like to know more of their history at least, especially if they die or something. I want to at least know a little bit more about them.
Me too.
Whether that's from the World Between Worlds or from, I don't know, his perspective. Like, he's always closing his eyes and looking at stuff, you know? Like, maybe one of those times we get to see what he's seeing or something, and it gives us more information.
You know what I'd like to see? Like, either in, like, some other book or special or something, if we do see Baylan in the Clone Wars era, I always find it fascinating pairing a Jedi with their clone commander. Like, how much, Rex kind of takes his cues from Anakin, and it changes Rex, right? Commander Cody is way more by the book than Rex because Obi-Wan's way more by the book than Anakin. What's Baylan Skoll's clone commander like? And we've had Plo Koon has Wolf. We've had some really cool clone commanders in there.
And Plo Koon is kind of in the middle of the two, right?
He is.
I feel like he's fairly by the book, but also leaves a little wiggle room, and that's how you get. That's how you get moments where, like, well, Master Plo Koon told me I should come.
Yeah.
I guess I did.
Well, I guess I did.
I don't know. I feel like he kind of has that middle ground. I think
He's
Wolf
awesome.
is in there as well with that. So, yeah, I get what you mean.
Maybe Baylan's like, well, I wonder what Baylan's clone commander's like. And what's his name?
I wonder what his...
Wolf's Taken.
What he was like as just a Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be cool. What color lightsaber think you had? For some reason, I immediately thought blue.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know why I went to yellow.
Really?
But it feels odd.
I mean, yellow generally is like, a temple guard.
Who else had yellow? Not very many people had yellows, really, huh? It kind of makes
Ray has orange.
Yeah, it kind of makes him more unique in a way because everyone has blues and greens and a purple.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe he was like the first person to like accidentally bleed his lightsaber. And he comes back and he's like, guys, what happened? I don't know.
But yeah, I don't know, Ultra. Maybe they are father and daughter.
That could be interesting.
I'm gonna go with no for now.
I'll go with yes to be a contrarian.
Contrarian.
Yeah.
All right. And then this might be the last one then. Premier Miller.
Okay.
Premier Miller. If we do get some Clone Wars flashbacks, would you like to see Obi-Wan in there as well? See, here's the thing too. So you do that. Part of me feels weird about having Clone Wars without having like Lanter and what is it, Taylor? Obi-Wan is voice actor.
James Arnold
Taylor. Yeah, I couldn't think of the first two. I just got Taylor. Like without having them kind of there, some of it feels a little weird for some reason to me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Clone Wars, I'm so attached to their voices there, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind. It's kind of like the one book we read. What was it? Brotherhood. Where I feel like I started reading thinking of Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. And by the end of it, I was thinking of James Arnold Taylor and Matt Lanter.
Good.
And it was a neat transition for that.
Yeah.
So, like, for some reason, like, that's like, it's the Clone Wars are starting, and now we're getting more into the Clone Wars, and that's where we end. Mm-hmm. This would, for some reason, for me, it would feel weird going and seeing all of them, or whatever they do, but seeing, like, the voices be wrong, even though they're right.
I get what you mean.
They're 100% right.
There's room. It's a big galaxy. Yeah, there's room for all different. I mean, that's what makes great characters is that you can have multiple people play them, but they still feel consistent.
Could we walk around in the world between worlds? So, like, we did that before, right? And we saw like
special frames.
We saw Kanan in there. Yeah. We saw like this or that and heard voices and stuff.
Ugh.
Can we do that? Do you think that it's possible to see animation in there? Or do you think they CGI like animation like things that we've had? So
interesting. You know what? Very related to this, I did see people point out that in the Ghost cockpit you can see a little tiny like picture that Hera has put there.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's Kanan. But you can't tell if it's animation or if it's like a stand-in live action or if it's just like Freddie Prinze Jr.'s headshot.
Sure.
But like she has Kanan there and I'll be like, oh, that would be interesting if it was like the animation version of it,
Sure.
Because it's so small you can't see it. But I get what you mean. Maybe that's just the way of we see scenes that were in the Clone Wars but are in live action.
Yeah. Or do you make them kind of like the Lion King movie where it's like it's CGI'd but it looks more live action-y or something? Or
I mean, I get what you mean.
Like, would it take you aback if you look in there and it shows you, like, a scene from Clone Wars?
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, I could probably enjoy it more, honestly.
Could we do that where we're looking back and you see, like, Ahsoka and Anakin racing up a mountain or something, and it's just from the animation, not redone or anything?
I have zero problem recontextualizing scenes in different mediums.
Because that's my thing. Is like, would I rather see that? Or would I rather see, like you said, like there's Hayden, Ewan, Ashley Eckstein.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do with Ahsoka's character, just whatever. And then like, do you want them there, or can it be the animation characters? And does that seem weird to be in a live action medium, looking through these portals and seeing like the animation side of Star Wars?
That would seem weird to me. I think it would be a little like Roger Rabbit for me. I think.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I mean. Like, does that seem ridiculous, or would you rather them remake it?
I mean, we've certainly seen that with Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't know. I mean, I guard Star Wars a lot more in my heart, so like anything that is new, I am scared and afraid. So that's my answer.
I'm scared and afraid.
I would prefer to see it in live action and have as little discrepancy between the two as possible.
Okay. I'm going to take Ultra Sergeant's last question here, just because it's a unique one. I don't think we've asked before, but what could they possibly do that would make you think and say that is too much fan service?
I mean, just showing Anakin at the end is exciting, but it's exciting because that was the end. That means next time we're going to be getting into it. I don't want to show Anakin for no reason, right? I don't want it to be just an Easter egg. That's a fan service thing. Anakin needs to be there to be a utility to Ahsoka's character. So, I when it comes to fan service, as long as the utility to a character, I mean, that's why I like Cad Bane in Book of Boba Fett. A lot of people will say that was too fan servicey, but to me, that's a lack of critical thought about what is actually happening.
That's what I was about to ask is about Cad Bane, because I've heard the same thing where they're like, that's a fan service thing. They could have put someone else there instead, and I'm like, but if you have the connection to Cad Bane,
Yeah.
like now you're like, oh, this guy's a threat. If you don't have it, then it's the same as just using some new bounty hunter.
Sure.
Right? And he puts a threat there from the Pikes, and there's a reason for him being there.
There is, but it's also Boba Fett is going through a journey of being the biggest, baddest bounty hunter in the galaxy to being someone that doesn't think that way, that doesn't have those values anymore, and that can change and that can grow. Cad Bane effectively takes
he embodies the
that
other side
role
of that, right?
so that Boba can fight himself. And they also have this incredible history with each other, if you know it. So I think that a lot of people would call that fan service. And I will, too, to a certain extent. But I wouldn't say it's too much. But what is too much is to do it without a good reason. Just to get someone to point at a screen and be like, I know that one, is too much fan service. It can be fun, but it should be minimal. It should be, like, the best fan service things are stuff that still have utility in the art that you're telling, the art that you're showing. If it has no utility, it's not good. Like, the N1 Starfighter I see is more fan service than I do Cad Bane.
Yeah,
but I still like it.
I'm trying to think of something that's been fan servicey, something where I'm like, well, that was just that, and it didn't add anything or make it any more.
Sure. Like you could say Tamara Morrison appearing in Obi-Wan is kind of fan servicey, having that vet there, but it still serves a utilization in the story, right?
Yeah, it's explaining like the clones and where they are in this time and how they've been cast out.
Yeah.
And it's that idea of like the homeless vets in real life, right? So it just embodies that, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ultra, I don't know exactly would be too much fan service. Even just having Purgo just flying through, like, you could say that's fan service. It could just be asteroids, but it's cool that it's Purgo, and it may also feed a story that they're kind of talking about this space travel from this planet,
Olochu, to respond to what you said, that they don't have the connection because we never, the first meeting never happened. That wasn't my point. My point was their roles as the biggest, baddest bounty hunters in the galaxy, not necessarily because they themselves have met, though it is 100% implied that they have.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. But yeah, they have. He definitely embodies what Boba Fett was.
Yeah.
And not what he's.
His mindset,
especially
his
because
psyche,
of
his
the Tusken
philosophy.
Raider,
yeah.
Time that he lived with them.
The Tuskens.
Yeah. What he's changed and how that has changed him as well. So, no, maybe I'll try to think about this more and see if there's fan servicey moments where I'm like, man, this was something that I just doesn't add anything and that's very fan servicey. But I don't know if I think about Star Wars too much in that hits me that way. But
I mean, I try to look at Star Wars the way it's intended, which is a space fantasy show about wizards, and I take it very seriously, but I also don't. I also just have fun, enjoy being in the moment. Don't have your mind be elusive elsewhere. Trust your instincts and think about what's happening here and now. You guys need to listen to what the Jedi say more.
Yeah. Oscar said, I named my dog Kanan because I love the character. I named
really?
my son Kanan.
I was gonna say, yeah.
So I understand that. Definitely love Kanan. So
yeah.
Maybe we'll see him. Maybe they'll have him in the War Between Worlds. Maybe they won't. I don't think there's as much of a connection there for Ahsoka.
Yeah.
But we don't know exactly where Hera and Jason and that kind of story takes them or anything too.
Sure.
So maybe there's something more there, and I don't know. Jason, I'm sure, has some Force powers, and they are all there on Cetos. So we'll just have to wait and see. But that will be next week. Which we are done with Badonkagonk for day. We need to get the Gonk back on his charging station and everything. But we will be back, as we said, October 5th for a new Dawn, which I'm excited for. I love some Rebel stories, and I can't wait to dive into that. So
absolutely.
All right, guys. Make sure you subscribe here on Wave Squadron, not just for the next Badonkagonk, but also as we continue the Ahsoka series. So, everyone, have a good one. Bye, everybody.
May the Force be with you.